Hey everybody, this is John at the top of the episode. I wanted to do a quick disclaimer before we get started. The views represented here are our views and our views alone. They do not represent that of our employers. To that end, please do not try and find our employers either. Thanks.
Welcome to SeedPod, a podcast about the natural world. I am AJ, and I'll be your host this week. And of course, we've got Calvin and John here along for the ride as well. How we doing, fellas?
Doing all right.
Awesome. If you've been a listener of the show, you know we usually start things off with either the invasive of the week or our little forest minute, depending on how the mood that week strikes us. So let's rock and roll with the forest minute. John, what you got for us this week?
Okay, so mine's gonna be a long one. So, at time of recording, I've just gotten back from a trip to Europe, and so I stopped in Iceland and the UK. It was fantastic. Besides Iceland Air trying to steal all of my baggage and kidnap me, like the Vikings of old, but I was able to find I'm going to say this with air quotes, a national forest of Iceland. It is technically a forest that is publicly owned. It's mostly lodgepole pine and a couple birch woods, but I found one of them, so that was a nice little small treat. But the actual highlight was we were in the southwest of England near Dartmoor and Bodenmoor, and if you at all know it, it's a really rainy section of an already rainy island, so much so that it's part of the Atlantic rainforest, which is this historic, not necessarily hypothesized, but remnant rainforest along the coast of Scotland, Wales, and England on the left-hand side, the western side. And I found a couple old, ancient, probably forests that were all oak forests that were this Atlantic rainforest type. So they get over 2 feet of rain a year.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. You thought the Northwest got a lot of rain. They get 2 feet out there. And yeah, anyway, I just found a whole mess of oak woods. I found a old log landing where they had staged some logs. And yeah, it was gorgeous. It was a grand old time. My wife and my sister dealt with me, dragging them all around on random walks and stuff like that. I found redwoods that some goober had planted in the 1800s, and that were like California-sized redwoods. Like they looked, and I walked down. It's like, oh, that's a grand fir. That's a Doug fir. That's a Sitka spruce. That's a redwood. I'm like, I'm in Northern California again. Great, cool, fantastic.
Invasive redwood.
Oh my god, yeah, literally, it was invasive redwood. It was everywhere out there. Like, I guess kudos to them for planting a diversity of invasive plants.
Shut up.
We don't need to give kudos.
No. This podcast already has an anti-English stance. We must continue that. You have to run. The brand is anti-English.
No, I can't keep going because there's a really cool rainforest out there. Like being able to find an old part of it, and like I'd have to give them at least the Forestry England folks, because they are actually starting to convert some of their planted their conifer plantations to actually to native woodlands. So I found a whole bunch of tree tubes and stuff like that of birchwood and some oak woods that they had planted after they clear cut some of the conifers. So there's a little bit of hope for them. I will say though, the tree stakes that they were using to support those trees, if you hold it, they were like 2 inches. They were
they staked the fuck out of trees in Europe.
Yeah,
wait, hold on. Excuse me, I need to pause. England is in Europe. They voted to not be European.
True.
But the Europeans and the Brits love staking the fuck out of trees. Also, before you keep going, John, I just need to honk like a goose. Like, why are they doing restoration? What happened to things to do restoration? Where did all the forests go?
Where did all the forests go? Yes.
Yeah.
Away. They just went away.
We paused them for a little bit. Yeah.
Nothing anyone could have done. They just went away.
I just need to continue to justify why we don't trust the English on this podcast. sorry to distract.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So it was just this really cool thing. I did a lot of walking. Again, I listened to enough English railroad folks. Shout out to Gareth Dennis. And
come on the pod.
Yeah, we can figure out a way to smash trains and trees together. We'll figure
it's
something
called
out.
ties. It's called ties.
Yeah.
The ties that bind it.
But anyways, like we were talking about, it's like, it was really nice being able to hop on a train. Like my hotel was 2 blocks away. Hop on a train, go half an hour up the line, jump off the train, go for a walk, jump back on the train after I was done, and head back to my hotel.
Awesome.
I didn't have to touch a car. I didn't have, like, that part I really loved. And, like, I know the British rail system could be even better if they, funded it and taxed wealthy people and a couple other things. But, like, even with that starting point, I'm like, oh my God, this is so nice. We could have something like that if we got our heads collectively out of our asses and amongst other things. But it was really nice. It also pissed rain the entire time, but it was
appropriate.
The English, yeah, exactly. It was, I'll say, very stereotypically English. Yeah, it was very rainforesty. It would rain for 30 minutes. And then it would be like a drizzle, basically. Like, I'm used to the downpours of the Midwest now, where it's like, yeah, I'm going to rain a half inch in 30 seconds. And it's like, nope, this is just a very gentle, just constant misting. I had a blast. I want to go back. I have this whole idea for an episode on the Atlantic rainforest, including why it doesn't exist anymore. But it was really cool, and I had a blast. So that's what I've been up to.
Now, John, when you were exploring these rainforests and getting wild crazy about their oaks, were you like in full like tweed? Like, did you have like the whole like tweed suit with the tweed hat?
I wish. No, I was wearing the
leather
normal...
elbow patches, anything.
Yeah.
No,
shotguns.
I did spook up. That's the other thing. Right to roam is fantastic. Public access to private lands. We had I'm getting distracted by this because I had a guy literally fall out of the woods, fall into a ditch, and climb out in front of me as I'm walking by on this main road back to the train station. And I'm like, I'm happy it's not America, because that guy would have had like an AK or an AR-15. And I'm just like, okay, I don't need that. And it's just an English guy at most. He's got a knife. That's fine. But anyway, it was just weird. And we also were walking literally through someone's farmyard. Like, you picture, stereotypical Iowa farm. There's a walking path straight down the middle of it. Like, you had barns with some guys, a sheep herd on one side, his house kind of behind a stone wall with a privacy screen on the other side. And we would just walk right down the middle. It was fully like signed and stuff like that, with like signs saying, hey, close the gate, all that sort of stuff. We are on a public footpath. I was like, damn it. We could do this too if everyone, again, was okay with it and like had a sense of collective ownership, basically, and not being a dickwad. But yeah, that was the other really cool part about it, was the walk, the public access footpaths in the United Kingdom, like are really good. And again, they could be even better. Like, they only have access, I think, 8 or 10% of the private lands that they think they should have access to, and it's like, you could, so good.
Excellent. Now before, it was very complimentary of the English rainforest. How many species of oak do they have?
2.
Get out of here!
I think they may be both white oaks. It's sessile and pendulate oak or something like that.
I don't know which one.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, so
imagine only having 2 species of oak.
Oh, it made it real easy.
I mean, how many are in the western U.S.? Like 5?
No, you have a couple, because you have the tan oaks, the white oaks, the various live oaks.
Yep. Like, you've got, I think, it's live, tan.
Oh, I guess, tan oak isn't Quercus, I don't think. I think it's not.
Tan oak is Neocarthus or something like that, but it is so...
Doesn't count.
It's close enough. I know it doesn't count, but it is also kind of close.
Is it Fagaceae? I can't remember.
Oh, that's a good question. That's a... I don't
Anyway.
think so.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
It's only
So-
2 oaks. It was still really cool. Had a blast.
Yeah, listeners, you have heard 2 podcasts we'll be doing. We're going to talk about the Atlantic rainforest as well as reforestation in Iceland. So those are going to be 2 upcoming episodes. It will require us going to both England and Iceland. Actually, John can go to England again. I'm going to go to Ireland, and we're going to get the Irish perspective on things. So this is going to be 3, because then we're going to talk about the politics of the rainforest. And so this is why you need to somehow give us money so we can write this off and take this expense.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And we definitely, both of us, Calvin and I, don't have young kids.
Yeah,
We'll figure it
It'll be
out.
fine.
it's fine.
It'll be fine.
We'll get there. We can have it all.
Yeah, definitely. Anyways, yeah, that's how about you, Calvin? What have you been up to?
So my forest minute just happened actually. I took my wife and daughter and I. We went for a walk, and they went for a walk, and I had my garden weasel with me, and I just collected a bunch of white oak acorns. So that was really nice. I was just in the park collecting white oak acorns all over the place. I got like a huge printer box full of white oak acorns, and they had a nice walk. So it was nice.
So are you no longer allowed to fill the stroller with the acorns? Is that where you're at now, or did...
I wanted to collect more acorns that would fit in the stroller.
Okay.
Yep.
So I had to bring a separate box for these. But I did put some hickory nuts in the bottom of the stroller because I didn't want to mix it. With
Yeah, you don't
want
want to mix them up. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
So
Completely different.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
We did get nuts on the stroller and in the stroller. Just the acorns were separate. You got to keep it separated.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I've
so
got.
what was your
Oh,
first?
I got to start. Sorry, I got to interrupt you with a small anecdote that literally within 48 hours of coming back to the United States, I had someone asking me, "Hey, do you have any red oak acorns?" And I've got a Eagle Scout project that they want to do a direct seeding in, and this person had collected white oak acorns, which sprout within a week of falling from the tree. Like that's how they do. They're not dormant. And this person had stored white oak acorns in their basement.
Whoops.
Because it was quote cool. They had collected how many? I think I told you guys, but they collected 40 bushels of
my
acorns.
God.
That's so many acorns.
That is
and
a lot.
they have less than 10 left.
I'm surprised they even had 10.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was just all the ones at the bottom that were kind of insulated, I guess. I don't know, but I was just like, oh my God, this is why the only people I should do direct seedings are foresters. Like, holy shit, you cannot give the public access to ideas like this.
Yeah, there's a reason why this
Giving
is.
the public access to ideas was a mistake.
No, hang on.
So
John's
we-
official
we-
stance
yeah.
on ideas to the public.
So we now have 4 podcast episodes out of this one we're going to do.
Oh, no.
So just listen, just so you know, the white oaks, they overwinter as saplings or seedlings, and so they sprout basically the second they hit the ground. So you don't actually test viability on white oak acorns because if they're not sprouting,
Then they're
within
not
a
viable.
week, it's a dead acorn. Yeah. Whereas the red oaks overwinter as acorns, and so those you keep in a cool place for a couple months. Well, 30
And
days.
you can prevent white oaks from germinating by sticking them in a cool environment.
That only works for so long.
No, it works for about 6 months. I can usually keep. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I can keep them installed in my fridge set at 33-ish degrees, 34 degrees. I can keep them stalled until March basically, and then they start going no matter what. So.
And like viability's about or reasonable, I guess I should say. It's probably not going to be the same, but like
for sure, it's definitely reasonable.
That's cool. I had no idea.
That's okay. Yeah, no, they're still all viable and stuff like that. So.
Okay, so another question. So I just admitted to storing various seeds in my stroller. John, do you store, like, how many bushels of seeds do you store in your refrigerator, or do you have a separate fridge just for the seeds?
So, depending on which job you're talking about, I have an entire, the beer fridge, the Midwestern beer fridge, yeah, that's a seed fridge for 6 months out of the year. So I have
So this is
bur oaks in
expensive.
there. oh yeah, the $10 or whatever it costs to run that sucker. But yeah, no. So I've got a whole fridge that I have, like a whole standing fridge that I have set aside for that. And then for my primary job, we have a walk-in cooler that is, it's an old Apple cooler, and so that's I can stack hundreds of bottles in there and not even bat an eye, but I won't because that's asking for problems, and somehow mice got in there last year. It's a whole thing. Anyways, I don't know how that happened, but
yeah. See, I only store recreationally, so it's just like maybe the back third of one shelf.
Yeah,
that's like the reasonable amount.
I've been banned from keeping plant samples in my refrigerator. I had oak wilt samples in my fridge for like a week, and my wife, and so an oak wilt sample is just a chunk of a tree, and those were in my freezer for a week, and my wife was like, no, you can't, you're not allowed to do this, you don't get to have random pieces of, it was bagged, it was double bagged, but I don't get to have biological samples in my refrigerator or freezer.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to stop keeping, dead birds in the freezer.
Okay, now that makes sense. Now that one makes a lot of sense.
That's a food hazard.
Yeah.
Again, double bagged and labeled.
So what we're saying, folks,
food.
if you want to become a conservation person, your partners have to agree to it, but also you just got to have a second fridge.
There's some things that's going to happen. A grad student I'm on the committee of, they wood tanned several small mammals of various varieties and species, and those were just wood tanning in the fume hood. And also when I went out with them to collect samples of collect vegetation information for the project, we found a dead mouse, and they were like, "Ooh, bone!" The tanning was for scientific display, demonstration displays. But it was really funny that they stopped doing the project to get these dead mouse.
I mean, I got a buddy that will. So one of the guys that I have work for me for my consulting gig, he will stop anything he's doing, go chase a snake. I wasn't even paying attention. I didn't even see a snake anywhere near. We were on a sand prairie doing, or technically it's a sand savanna, but we were planting trees for this project, and all of a sudden he drops everything and runs off in a direction saying, "Ooh, snake!" And I'm like, it couldn't be anything
like
this.
That checks
out. Okay, good. I'm glad.
Especially if it's a cool, I'm probably not doing that if I can see, across the way that it's, a black snake or, a garter
nope, it's a garter snake.
But something cool, I'm taking off. I'm taking off running.
No, I don't chase herps around or small animals because I figure their life is hard enough as is. They don't need me bugging them. So that's my personal rule is, nah, we're not chasing it. It's fine. It'll live its life. As long as I get to see it. I did, when last time I was in South Carolina, a year ago, I did chase around a glass lizard for a second.
Those are so cool.
Those
are cool. Yeah. Yeah, those are really cool. For listener, if you don't know, a glass lizard is a lizard, but it has no legs, that does not make it a snake. If you don't know your taxonomy at all, but they're really cool. They look like a lizard. The face looks like a lizard, the head and everything, but it's long and otherwise looks like a snake, but it's not. They're pretty sweet.
And they're pretty.
They are really pretty.
Oh, okay. All right, AJ, what was your forest moment?
Mine. It's late season burning has been still rolling along, which is cool to see. Although we have we're to the point now. Where we kind of had to put a pause on it because it's just been way too dry. Most of the state is in D1, and we've even got some spots in D2. So we're crispy. I think a lot of us were kind of hoping to get not hit by the two hurricanes, but we were hoping that they would swing a little bit closer and just give us a couple of the rain bands, because we kind of need it. We finally started to get a little bit today, but I don't think it's going to be enough to amount to anything. But as far as an actual, forest thing beyond that, last weekend I went paddling with some friends in a really cool little spot that's some of the oldest, I would say it's not old, I don't think it's considered old growth cypress swamp because it has been harvested, previously, but like not intensively. So it's probably some of the oldest cypress swamp in the state, outside of like the Okefenokee and places like that. Because obviously that doesn't count. But like, yeah, real cool spot. Just and it's hard to get to, so like there's no one there. Just kind of a little unknown corner of public land.
Hell yeah, dude.
Always fun.
Now,
and we didn't get eaten alive by bugs.
Real cool. Oh yeah, that's actually the most important.
D1, SEC, or is that also Big Ten? What are we talking about this D1?
Sorry, D1, like if you're at drought severity, D1 is not considered. I think it's not considered drought, or it's like mild drought.
Abnormally dry.
Yeah. D0 is like abnormally dry. D1 is mild drought, I think, and then D2 is where you start getting into like moderate and then severe and on up. But yeah, so it's like D1 I think is the first stage that is considered drought, but it's like a mild drought.
I'm somewhere in I haven't looked at the official indexes, but we're dry enough that the walnuts have all lost their leaves before everything else.
Yeah, that
grass is toasted to hell.
Yeah, my lawn's. Yep. The parts of my lawn that are still grass are crunchy. The pecan trees are all dropping leaves as well.
Yeah. No, we were under red flag warning because everyone's harvesting. So you've got cured corn, which is basically a jet fuel, and really high winds. And if you're running the combine too hard, or if you got some metal rubbing the wrong way or something like that, it goes whoop, and you just lost your crop, or you're doing some nutrient cycling. Either one, really.
Well, we'll get to talk about red flag here in a second. All right, AJ, what's the invasive of the week?
Yeah, so invasive of the week. We've got, keeping with the theme. I guess I should have said this episode is continuing on the theme of fire ecology, prescribed fire, all that good stuff. And
we're like half an hour in. We're so good at podcasting.
We are really good at this. We can stay focused like nobody's business.
This week's for invasive, a bit about random shit.
This week's invasive is climbing fern. Here in the southeast, it's mostly Japanese climbing fern, Lygodium japonicum. Probably butchered the pronunciation there. There's also old world climbing fern, which is Lygodium microphyllum, I believe.
It's like they're the same.
They're basically the same. They look a little bit different. They both suck. I think Japanese climbing fern is from Asia, Japan, Australia, that part of the world, and I think old world is also centralish, South Central Asia, but then also I think it's native to Africa, which is kind of weird that it has that distribution. But
wild.
I think if they weren't invasive, they would be cool plants, right? Like they're vines that are ferns. That's super cool.
That's pretty cool.
They reproduce with spores, so like they're just spores
just straight
in the
up
wind.
Fern.
It is an actual fern. They spread easily because again, spores very very easily dispersed with wind, on animals, equipment, water, all of that. Usually when I find it starting to invade a property, it's either along a waterway where the water came up and the water came back down and left the spores behind and now it's sprouted there, or it's either along a road or somebody just got a thinning done and it came in on the equipment. That's a huge one. Yeah, it's like property has no trace of it, and then gonna get this timber thinned, and then you come back in 6 months and there's climbing fern popping up all over the place. So it's a pain in the ass. You also see it pop up in cities, in towns, in landscaping, because the spores get in the pine straw. So if you're in a part of the world that uses pine straw as mulch landscaping, the spores will be in that and they'll sprout there.
I'm just going to distract us for a quick second. Now, listener, if you are curious about how do ferns reproduce, no, we're not talking about that. It's ridiculous. Ferns are ridiculous organisms.
Yeah, they're not.
You spend like half a semester in botany learning about ferns, and it's just ridiculous. No, we're not doing that.
Yeah, ferns are like, what if a plant was a bacteria?
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
They're one of the oldest forms of plant life, and so they do everything on hard mode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if someone pays us a lot of money, we'll do an episode. How about that?
I eventually will do one on
sure,
ferns,
probably.
But I'm gonna have to get my biology.
I was gonna say
I
would have to learn stuff for that one.
It's gonna be a whole thing. It'll come back to me, but it is a multi-cycle thing. It's a real pain in the ass.
But anyway, so why is climbing fern a problem? Why is it invasive? What does it do? Calvin, have you ever seen it like get really, really out of hand in a spot, or is it just kind of?
I saw the start of an infestation, and then like it go unmanaged for 2 years.
Okay.
So it didn't get crazy wild, but I saw it go from 0 to like 30.
Okay, yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, a lot of the times that is what it does, and it can take a little while to get that way. I think, and we'll talk about how fire deals with it. In a second.
Sorry. This was a thinning. This came about. They burned the stand and then they thinned it, so it was like perfect conditions for climbing fern.
Yeah. You couldn't ask for better conditions for climbing fern. When it gets really bad, that shit will climb, a 40-foot tall tree and, start to smother it. Like, it's not like kudzu, but it's kudzu-esque. If you really let it go, if you really, really let it go, it'll just keep climbing and it'll smother stuff. I've seen, cutovers where you can tell it used to have, some broom straw and bunch grasses and some hedges, of rubus and, blackberry and all that kind of stuff. And then it's just on top of that is this carpet of climbing fern just over the whole thing. And, I don't know how long it takes to get to that point, but it certainly can get to that point. It sucks for burning. And the reason it does is if it starts to climb up into the canopy, obviously that makes a nice ladder fuel to bring fire up there. It's also in the winter, it senesces, it browns up, the fronds get all crispy and everything. So if you're doing like a dormant season burn and then you've got this nice ladder fuel that's all crispy, those are nicely arranged to start burning and then go wafting in the breeze and start fires where you don't want them. So it's a pain in the ass for that. And then you also have to be careful of when you burn if you have climbing fern, because if you burn at the wrong time, like after it's started to create spores, the fire's not going to kill the spores. It's just going to disperse them. Like they're tiny little spores. Like they can get lofted in smoke columns. Like they're that small. So it's a real pain in the ass.
Bracken fern spores are so small and light they move in the jet stream. Like spores are, spores are just ridiculous. Like I said that ferns are ridiculous. They're just not like, they're not like seeds. They're so hard to kill, and they're viable for so long. It's just, oh my god.
There's a reason why like bracken and whatever ferns you have out, the ferns you have are here. It's like they've survived the gauntlet of the dinosaurs dying. Like they survived
before those.
Exactly. Yeah. Like they survived all of that. We are. They're a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. The coal in most of the U.S. is made up of forests from the Carboniferous era, and those were fern forests. Ferns are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, we're getting back to Jeffrey.
Yeah. So back to control and all that. Fire doesn't really do a good job of controlling it. Because it can spread it. It's a fern. It's a perennial. So at best you're just top killing it and it resprouts. And unless you're like annual burning forever, I guess it's still going to have a chance to put spores out and spread, which is not fun. So yeah, the way to control it is herbicide, as we always seem to come back to when we're talking about invasive plants, unfortunately. And even that's hard. Glyphosate. So glyphosate and MSM, so Roundup and Escort, mixed are probably, that's the best way. That's the way we've gotten the best control of it. If you don't want to mess with the Escort, or you're just on a budget and you can only afford glyphosate, then yeah, glyphosate by itself will work. Hotter mix works better, I have found. You get control right away with 4%, whereas 1%, a lot of it doesn't quite die. But the flip side of that is you're probably gonna have to reapply anyway. So I don't know. Maybe it is better to go at like a 2 and save the money and then make sure you're getting back to it. I've definitely hit spots with 4% and not had it come back, but I also know plenty of other people that have not had that experience. So it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
1% is a crazy low rate. I mean, I wouldn't even bother with anything less than I'm usually in the 5% range.
minimum, I think, for like grass controls too for us. So.
Yeah. I don't know that you get anything better going above 4. 4 is kind of the go-to number that I've seen.
Okay.
Every once in a while, if you go looking for how to control climbing fern, there are a few otherwise reputable sources that I'm not going to call out by name that will say to use triclopyr. It doesn't work.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I know nothing.
That's a woody control.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that much, and I know that's wrong.
Yeah. I think it's one of the. I think it burns what you've sprayed quickly enough that somebody got it in their head that it worked, but then like it doesn't translocate at all because it's the wrong thing for the thing. So you just get no long-term control. You're basically just top killed it with that. So
that's even crazier than top kills. I wouldn't use triclopyr on fern control.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And of course, I guess I don't know if we've been doing this, but the usual caveat applies that we are talking about herbicides. Don't listen to us. Read the label. The label is the law. You didn't get it from me.
I'm curious if Oust works on
it. I don't know.
I feel like it would.
Oust is bait.
Oust is really good on ferns, yes.
Yeah, dude, Oust is so good. I love Oust. Ferns, stiltgrass, solves your problem.
All right, so last time we kind of explored broadly what the field of fire ecology is and what that means. And I think the rough definition we landed on is that it's the study of how ecology is the study of how organisms interact with their environment, but fire ecology then is the study of how fire shapes that interaction. So it's like whether an organism likes fire, hates it, doesn't really care, does it exist in an ecosystem that requires fire, how often, what kind of fire, all that. So fire ecology gives us like the fire related parameters and characteristics that an ecosystem might like or not like. Now, the three of us are natural resources managers. We're not really ecologists. So how does that work for us in the day to day? As best it can, I would say.
I think it. I would say it works as well as like any plan that makes contact with the enemy. You hold on to elements of it, but some things you have to change because the realities of the situation are different than what it is in this paper that describes something that frankly doesn't exist or only exists in this, mythical, perfect future that we don't have.
That's perfect. Like all the papers in Nature or Ecology or any of those big journals. And they can tell you, scientifically speaking, what a stand danger, air quotes, should look like. But at the end of the day, like it's people making the management decisions and people with different management priorities. And that is going to inform what that turns into and how that
it should be 100% white oak.
Okay.
Next question.
Okay, buddy.
That's perfect tree.
Perfect tree. Fire ecology, it kind of... It might inform that end state goal, right? Like we might be trying to take a stand from point A to point B, whatever that is, however you define it. Ecology and fire ecology might kind of help us define what point B looks like, but it's not the only thing in there. It's like we said, because people have different priorities, people have different requirements, people have different limitations of what they can bring to bear on management. Maybe I'm a landowner that I need to have a certain amount of income from timber. So I'm not going to be doing what a restoration ecologist is going to recommend for my property. Or maybe it's a state game lands that has a National Wild Turkey Federation, Superfund grant to do something for turkey habitat. That may not be what a restoration ecologist would say is the original or best use of that land, but it's what we got the money for, and so that's how we're going to manage it. So there's all these different objectives in mind that kind of inform how we manage things. And like John said, like there's kind of that built-in blind spot too of like you're always talking about this should look like X, but like you're always trying to get to some specific point. And that point might just be a snapshot in history, and we may not even have really good records of what that actually looked like. So is it really a point that we need to be working towards? Maybe, but also maybe not. It's not necessarily the best way to manage, a forest or an ecosystem. And I think I don't know, you guys can agree or disagree, but like I think that's really true with fire managed ecosystems, because we have a lot of information, but it's kind of limited in what am I trying to say? Like time, right? We don't have a ton of information about what things looked like before European contact.
No, I think that's totally fair. One thing that I shoot for in my management is this is going to be a dirty. I'm going to get real dirty with this, and like I'm not going to explain this fully because we don't have time. I shoot for what I call functional forestry, because like I work in a lot of landscapes that's like it should be chestnut forest. I'm never going to get chestnut back, so I can't ever do like pure restoration forestry. And like I need chestnuts back, I need cougars, I need passenger pigeons, I need all this stuff to get back to this true historic conditions. So I'm looking for functional forests. I want a diverse, functioning, healthy forest. I'm never going to fully get rid of the honeysuckle and stiltgrass and multiple rows. I need them down to a point where my forest can function. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a functional forest.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that's probably how most land managers approach things to some degree. Like there's very few, I don't think there's a lot of restoration ecologists actually doing management, unfortunately or fortunately. It's sick. I don't know. I respect ecologists, but a lot of them like to, in my experience, a lot of ecologists, like pure ecologists, like to ask questions and never kill shit. And at the end of the day, like we can ask questions and think about things until the cows come home, but then we can still have cows on the landscape. Right. And I want the cows off the landscape so I can get the trees back. So. No, yeah, that's perfect. Like it's important to have ecologists and especially even in restoration ecologists, right? It's important to have those aspects and viewpoints of like, this is what was here, this is maybe what you could be trying to work towards, but there's always going to be that disconnect of they might tell us what the idealized version is, and we can tell them, okay, well, here's what's practical. Maybe there's a middle ground that you can work towards.
And I think that's where I fall down on it. So Iowa, specifically the area where I'm at, is this convergence of prairies and oak woodlands, oak savanna, and northern hardwood forests and oak forests and remnant pine forests. Like it is a very diverse area that's really complex before we added in human Euro-American involvement. And like one of the things is like, you need to be burning on a 5 to 10 year rotation. And for AJ in the South, like that's a lot more feasible for him.
Oh God, like, that's so long.
Exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. But for me, in here,
what am I going to do the other 4 years?
Twiddle your thumbs, clearly. But for me, it's like if I hit every 5 years, oh my God, that's a miracle, because I've got prairies that need to get burned every year, every other year. I have oak forests that like haven't seen fire in so long that it may not actually work. They've been mesified so long, like it may not work. And also like the sheer logistics of it, like we have a lot of ag ground. So like if even a small element of fire goes the wrong way, even in a timber burn, which is pretty easy to control, I can burn down 500 acres of someone's crop or someone's field, and I get, sued into oblivion. And then that's not even accounting for all the weather stuff of like how to actually burn it. So like an ecologist may call for and recommend, John, burn every 5 to 10 years this oak forest. I'm like, I can get you every 10 maybe, because like there's too much other shit going on as much as I'd like to it. So that's why a lot of our management out here is you have to like, technically you're right. Technically it was an oak savanna, oak woodland ecosystem, but goddamn, we cannot achieve that unless unless Bill Gates gives me $1 bajillion, which he should, unless he does that. And like, to basically pay for all the labor, like I'm working within the constraints that I am, and like I can burn every couple of years. It's going to be an oak forest. Maybe I manage on the lower end of the density spectrum to try and get as close as I can to that savanna woodland ecosystem rather than closed canopy forest or something along those lines. But that's yeah.
See, I'm sitting here like, dude, I can't. Fire is not a viable option for me for purely economic reasons. Like,
well, yeah,
I can't get the insurance.
Yeah. Oh, that I'm assuming the insurance is
to do
like
fire.
Yeah. No, and like my primary.
Oh, sorry, John.
No, I was gonna say my primary job. Like we have the insurance for it, but like on my consulting side gig, I'm in the same boat as you. Like I talked to a couple of insurance people, and they're like, yeah, it's going to increase by a minimum of $2,000, and then every person is another couple $100 basically. That's on the burn crew, and it's like, oh, Jesus Christ!
Is that and that's per burn?
I didn't even get that far. Once I saw, it's like it needed to be $2,000 per, $2,000 total. I was just like, oh, and I can't afford that with what I can expect to drum up. Like we're still trying to get people to not always clear cut their forest or not always high grade their forests. Like we're still doing that. So I'm not even trying to get them to do fire is a whole other kettle of fish too.
Yeah, see, I'm not even qualified to look for insurance until I have Forest Service certified burn boss status.
Yeah, I was gonna say Pennsylvania wants you to be an RXB2, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
And it's like I can't, like, we literally don't teach the classes, and you can't get the fire hours.
There are maybe 5 RXB2s like in the state.
yeah. So, and that's just due to some state insurance stuff.
Yep.
Because we have a prescribed fire law, and then the standards were set way too high, and they haven't been unset. So, like, ecologically, we should be doing it, and I would love to do it, and I have burned in the southeast where it was much easier. It was like we just called the fire department and told them what was going on, so they weren't concerned. It's a total cultural issue for me.
So,
but I completely distracted us.
That's okay. That's kind of how this goes. But yeah, so that like I said, that kind of brings us back around to fire, which is the actual topic of the episode, and our kind of co-topic for this week is longleaf pine. We talked about it a little bit last time around, but it's a good kind of example ecosystem for the we'll call it the why of prescribed fire. So we talked about it last time. Longleaf's super highly fire adapted and fire dependent pine species in the southeastern U.S. It needs frequent low intensity fire both to keep other pines and also hardwoods from out competing it, but it also has to have that fire to expose bare mineral soil for germination. It's not the seed literally does not like to germinate on organic matter. It won't do it.
And you really need the fire to help get out of the grass stage.
Yes,
you can get out of the grass stage without fire, but it really helps get out.
Yes.
So that actually was my question. Can you? I don't know how it works actually, so I'm going to shut up and listen to you.
You can grow longleaf and not burn it. It doesn't like it, and I'll get to why. So
okay.
as Calvin kind of alluded to, it goes through a couple stages as it grows. I've seen places where they give it like 4 stages. That's silly. We're just gonna do 2. First is there's the grass stage is the first stage, and it'll look like a little poof of grass, just like a little green bunch grass, bunch of long green needles growing out of a little central point.
We're talking like almost a foot long.
Yeah, these are long needles.
It is actually longleaf. Yeah.
It is a green pom-pom sticking out of the ground is what it looks like at this point. And at this stage, it's pretty fire tolerant, right? Like there's a lot of moisture in those needles. If a fire comes across, the needles burn up, they release that moisture, carries the heat away from that terminal bud in the middle, which is where all the growth happens and what you need to protect. So it's actually pretty hard to kill it with a fire at that stage.
And the bud has a bunch of water around it.
Yes. Yeah. It has like a little, almost like a little moat.
It's got a little sprinkler on it.
It'll just hold water.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's a ridiculous tree.
It is a 100% ridiculous tree. It needs that fire, though, for competition control, like I mentioned. There's also a disease it can get in sandy soils called brown spot needle blight. And the cure for that is fire. It's a fungus, and fire kills the fungus.
So that makes sense.
And the needles will grow back, and the fungus doesn't. Bing, bang, boom. Longleaf is goofy because it'll stay in that grass stage for like kind of as long as it fucking feels like it. Usually not any less than 3 years. Sometimes
so
up
does
to
it get
like
triggered
8.
by fire then?
It can.
Okay.
It's not always triggered by fire. Like you can have it, because you can burn longleaf pretty much any time after it's been in the ground for a year. That's the rule of thumb. Maybe wait till 2 years if the seedling quality was crap like it was this year. But during that stage, it's growing down, right? It's forming a big root system, and
just like oaks.
I was gonna say it's just like oaks.
Yeah, basically. In that way, and it's so people burning maybe 3 years, 4 year, 5 year old longleaf, then it'll come out of that grass stage, and it actually makes a ton of sense why fire will trigger it to come out of the grass stage when it's ready, because the next stage after the grass stage is what we call the rocket stage, and that's
wait. Hold on, AJ.
Yeah,
it is much like Sean Kingston in that shorty fire burn on the dance floor.
Okay.
Sure, man. Yeah.
Already working on that fucking dad humor, isn't he?
You go from the like foot long needles to like a 5-foot tree
in no time.
Season.
We're talking like up to 3 years of growth in a year. Or three feet, I should say. 3 feet of growth in a year, which is wild.
Yeah.
That stage is also when it's probably the most vulnerable it's ever going to be to fire. So it kind of makes sense for that fire in the grass stage to trigger it. Because if it just burned, chances are it's probably not going to burn again while it's doing the rocket thing. And by the time another fire comes along, the tree's kind of, betting that it's going to be either tall enough or whatever to survive it. So like rocket stage, you thought the grass stage was goofy. Rocket stage is even goofier.
It's so funny.
Because it'll start putting out the lateral branches, and it'll look like a fucking Dr. Seuss, like something out of a Dr. Seuss book.
It looks like a little red pine, to be honest. It looks like a little red pine. But it's like 5 feet tall.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's trying to grow as quick as it can to get that terminal bud above like your typical flame height. It doesn't have the big poof of needles at the same way when it was a grass stage. So when it's actually doing active growing, we call that candling. It's super, super vulnerable at that stage. And also because it's growing so fast, the bark is not always thick enough to like handle a long residence time, a long period of fire around it. So like I said, that's kind of the point where it's the most vulnerable to fire. Once it gets like above, 8-ish feet tall, and that stem's like maybe an inch, 2 inches around it at ground level, it's kind of back to like you mostly don't have to worry about it regarding fire, assuming you're burning with like pretty high frequency and like low severity, because the flames, if you're getting 8-foot flame lengths, you got something going on.
Something has happened and it's bad.
Things are happening. Yeah.
So that candling stage is usually between like 1 and 5 years. Like that's how long that lasts. And like,
I mean, well, the candling happens throughout the life of the tree, because that's just anywhere it's putting on new growth is those candles.
Okay.
But yeah.
But the stage that we're talking about, where it's very
that rocket
vulnerable.
stage where it's vulnerable. Yeah,
So you're seeing the grass stage from year 0 through 3 of its life, potentially out to 5. The rocket stage is going to be year 3 to 7, depending on where it decided to shoot up, and then that's when it's fire vulnerable for those 2-3 years, and then after that you're again working with basically a fireproof tree, unless you are like doing some wild shit.
No, yeah, it's fire tolerant, not fire. Like you can if you're getting like a no shit, honest to God wildfire in longleaf that hasn't seen fire in 20 years, and you're getting 100% needle scorch all across the tree, then you're probably you might die, because it's still just a tree.
Of course it will. Yeah.
And, like
it's not asbestos.
Yeah, it's not made of asbestos, right? But
it's pretty close though.
It's as close as you can get, and it's fireproof to low to moderate intensity fire that anyone is going to be doing on purpose, and most of what people are going to be doing on accident, if it's been burned regularly, because you just don't have the fuel load that you need to kill the tree.
Gotcha.
The only other thing is if you've got longleaf, big longleaf that hasn't been burned in a long time, you also have duff to worry about, and duff is that buildup of organic matter on the soil surface, decomposing needles and leaf litter and that kind of stuff, builds up on the soil surface. And the trees are like anyone else, they're lazy. Duff is lots of cheap, easy nutrients to get to, and so if it's available and they have time and they can do it, they'll send up fine little feeder roots up into that duff layer to take advantage of that easy to obtain nutrients. If you then get a fire in there and it burns that whole duff layer off, you will kill those roots, stress the tree out, probably kill it, maybe 2 years later, and you'll be like wondering why all your nice big longleaf died. Because it doesn't happen right away. It's pretty delayed.
Yeah, trees are slow.
And longleaf, well, most pine duff is longleaf because those needles are so big and thick. Like, that duff is pretty acidic and it can be tough to handle from a breakdown standpoint. So you do have to have some more specialized bacteria that work on it and fungi that work on it. So, without fire, that duff gets thick. She builds up pretty good. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And those needles, they don't just disappear. That's why you have pine straw. But that's it.
Yeah.
I just want to say, she thick. The duff, she get thick.
She do very quickly. And I think compared to the other southern pines too, like loblolly and slash, they don't seem to. Part of that's the size of the needle, but I think it's also they don't seem to have the same tendency to put up as many feeder roots and get hammered by burning the duff off as to the degree that longleaf does. It really doesn't like to have that burnt off all at once. You can handle it very slowly and gradually. You burn a little bit off at a time, and that takes some finagling with moisture and stuff. And we'll probably talk about that a little bit on the next episode where we kind of get into the more of the nuts and bolts of how we do fire. But for right now, we're on the why, because we're do not three nuts and bolts yet. No. So longleaf though is just the tree, right? It's just the tree. It's not the ecosystem. We kind of use it as the shorthand for the longleaf pine ecosystem as well, which is the thing I actually care about. Because remember, I'm a wildlife guy. I don't give a fuck about the tree.
Shut up about the wildlife. It's all about the plants. Okay, I will say, in grad school, we did a really interesting experiment. So you have a number of fire adaptations that we've talked some about and some that we haven't talked about because this is not a botany. We're not doing a botany lesson here. But there are...
John, start the timer for the botany lesson.
You got it, boss.
Shut up. So we did this experiment where if you look at all the pines out there, some are listed to have a grass stage and some are not listed to have a grass stage because it's a great fire adaptation, the grass stage. And so we tried to grow all of these trees from around the world to see which ones had a true grass stage and did not. And really only longleaf and one interesting tree from Taiwan had a grass stage. So the grass stage is a very unique fire adaptation.
Did you have South Florida slash in the mix? Because that does have a grass stage.
Yeah, that was another one. I forgot what that was. It was there were 3. It's the grass stage is super unique and it's really cool. Shortleaf pine also has a really unique fire adaptation, which is a root collar thing. But we're not getting into that now. But this is
it resprouts like a hardwood, which is cool. Sort
of.
So
does pitch pine, man.
Yeah, pitch pine does too. Yeah, no,
I wish I could plant pitch pine.
Fuck pine. All my true homies love pitch pine.
Oh,
sorry, that was a real niche diss.
That is specific. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, we just introed pitch pine in class the other day.
And okay.
And then we were like, pond pine exists. Don't worry about it.
We have way more pond pine than pitch pine, so.
All right, we live in the Alleghenies, so pond pine doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Pitch pine barely exists.
Back to the
minute
topic.
And a half, by the way, AJ.
Talking about the longleaf pine ecosystem, though, is it's a whole ass ecosystem. The pine trees, the open savanna structure that we kind of picture, which may or may not be super accurate depending on the time scale we look at. We have an estimate, though, that you'll see thrown around is that pre-European settlement, there was anywhere from 60 to 90 million acres of longleaf pine ecosystem vaguely defined across the southeastern U.S. compared to like 3 to 5-ish million today, and those are big estimate ranges, because part of that is how do you count a mixed species stand, especially like on the edges of ranges, and even today, like 3 to 5 million. How much of that is just pine plantation being raked for pine straw? Like
a lot.
A lot.
We don't have 5 million acres of longleaf ecosystem. We maybe have 1.5 to maybe 2 of that, and then 3 million or more of tall long rotation.
Yeah. Wait. You didn't mention the most important part of the longleaf ecosystem, which it is like one of the most diverse ecosystems in the world.
Absolutely. Yes.
Like outside of like the rainforests, like this, and like it is an incredibly diverse ecosystem from a plant and wildlife perspective.
If you put a meter square on the ground and start counting, individual plant species, you'll have more in a longleaf pine ecosystem than almost anywhere else in the world. Kind of including the rainforest, because in a rainforest all the diversity's up. So if you put the meter on the ground, you're not finding shit.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, that's just cheating. Yeah.
Well, and then the rainforest also doesn't hold the nutrients well because it drains too fast. But different conversation. Every unique ecosystem is unique and cool, and we love them all. But that's why like the focus is on the longleaf ecosystem, is because it's so unique, and there are so many endemic plants, so they are native only to the longleaf ecosystem, and they're all evolved for these like really interesting and specific niches. It's so cool. Like you get like the shovel like frog. Is that the gopher frog?
Yeah, gopher frog.
Yeah, super cool. Well, I don't want to steal the thunder, but it's super cool and unique.
Yes, it is. The tree itself is primarily a coastal plain species, though, right? It likes those sandy, well-drained soils, but it'll also do okay in wet areas. Like
it doesn't like the salt too much.
It doesn't like that. And it doesn't like to sit in water. If there's standing water, it's not gonna do well there. But if it's in a wet area that gets burned pretty regularly, like it'll do fine. It doesn't really start to get outcompeted by other pines until you start getting like standing water, or you start getting longer, fire return intervals. Kind of as you get off the coast.
Hang on, what do you mean by longer fire rotation interval? Because
like
you
longer
just said
time
5
between...
years was insane. No, I know that, but like, what's the time range that you're thinking?
So 5 years, yeah.
Jesus Christ,
2 years is what it likes. If you start getting into 5 years, you're going to start running into loblolly.
Okay, that's insane. Yep.
Slash.
Okay.
Slash if you're coastal.
Yes, slash, especially in the really wetter areas, the slash will hang on.
Okay.
And also, just if you start getting into the heavier, more clayey soils, like if you start to move away from the coast into the Piedmont, you start getting way more loblolly and shortleaf in the mix.
Yeah. And shortleaf likes the elevation.
Shortleaf likes the elevation. There's like there's weird montane longleaf, like up in weird parts
of Virginia.
Is it up in Virginia
North Carolina
too? There's I was gonna say we've like North Georgia and North Alabama as well have like little weird snippets of it, and I honestly don't know as much about that as I should. It's a weird exception.
It's super cool. So you can find longleaf from Tejas all the way up to Virginia. And I think there's some little bit of planted pieces in Maryland. There was at one time a longleaf pine in Pennsylvania, and it did live in my window. Well, it was mine. Yeah, it was mine.
Nice.
It died from scale insect, interestingly enough. Huh. Yeah. So it's a very truly southern species. I don't think there's any in Kentucky, but maybe
I don't think so. No.
Arkansas, Oklahoma has it. So it is a very southern species. So if you're
I'm not sure. I'm not even sure about Oklahoma and Arkansas. I would think that would get. That's like squarely shortleaf.
Yeah.
Territory.
It is true old-blooded Confederacy tree.
Yeah, but unlike the Confederacy, it's actually cool and good.
And it liked when Sherman was around.
Yeah, it did.
It's a reference for our American history heads there.
But so like now, as far as the actual ecology of the tree goes, it's a cool tree.
It looks cool too. It's really easy to identify.
Yes, it is, unless you're confused by slash in weird places. Which, okay, and if you start to get into Florida, where you do start to overlap with South Florida slash, like
that's a weird tree.
I can't. Yeah, I'm not confident IDing those. But like, in terms of the actual like ecosystem, is longleaf itself absolutely necessary ecologically speaking? I'd argue probably not.
I mean, I think it helps with the duff buildup.
It does help. It helps with the duff buildup. The fire, it'll support.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, if we're talking about prescribed burning, maybe not. If you're talking about just relying on, lightning season fire, maybe longleaf supports that better because the needles, have that vertical arrangement. They're bigger, they burn easier, yada yada. But like slash loblolly shortleaf can kind of serve most of the same ecosystem functions most of the time. And even in like a artificial regeneration setting, like as long as you don't care about sometimes killing some of your recruitment seedlings, you still can. Like you can burn loblolly once it's 10 feet tall
established
without too much worry about it, especially if you keep the you're gonna be not burning for like 7-8 years at least, but like you can still do it, and maybe you'll kill some when you first bring the fire back in, but you probably planted it too thick and needed to anyway. So
yeah.
Most so again, I'm a wildlife guy. Most wildlife most of the time doesn't really care about a particular tree species as much as they care about forest structure, right?
Especially when it comes to conifers.
Oh, okay.
Like when it comes to conifer structure, it's like really
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I did not know that at all.
Because what are you getting from the conifer? Like the nutrients is like
quail don't care about trees at all. They'll eat longleaf seed just as well as they'll eat loblolly seed.
Okay.
A pine tree is a pine tree as far as a nuthatch is concerned. They don't give a shit. Hell, even gopher tortoises, the like quintessential, herptile of the longleaf pine ecosystem.
This is gopher frog erasure, and I will not stand it.
Okay.
I
Gopher frogs too. Gopher tortoise doesn't give a shit about the longleaf though. They just want to know that there's enough light hitting the ground so their salad grows, right?
That's true.
They're not using the pine. They're not using the tree for anything.
That's true.
Deer don't care.
Doesn't care. We all know that deer doesn't care less.
There's some exceptions like fox squirrels. Like southeastern fox squirrels, like they absolutely prefer longleaf because the seeds are bigger and tastier. You've got red-cockaded woodpeckers, which are threatened woodpecker species in the U.S. Recently not delisted, degraded. I forget what the term is. They used to be endangered. Now they're threatened.
Downgraded?
Downgraded. There it is. Yeah, downgraded. They're the only woodpecker species that excavates exclusively in living trees in the U.S. And they prefer longleaf. Because longleaf gets red heart disease that makes the heartwood nice and soft, easy for them to dig little homes in. But they'll also nest in like loblolly / shortleaf as long as the trees are old and big enough. So like is longleaf absolutely necessary? Not really, maybe. For wildlife, bugs is bugs.
Bugs is bugs.
And there's a lot of bugs that are really fucking picky about plants. So I'm not even touching that.
But we've already, as a podcast, have decided. Bugs is bugs. They is not wildlife. So This is not our problem. Simply not our problem.
Yeah, I want to do maybe a whole. I'm not going to go into like all the reasons why gopher tortoises and all these things are really cool because that is honestly probably its own separate episode. Yeah. But suffice to say, broadly, restoration of longleaf pine ecosystems is a high priority for land managers. Natural resources managers throughout the Southeast, right? Like beyond the people with a purely timber production goal, those of us doing actual, ecology and wildlife management, like, we want to restore these ecosystems in some way. We want to restore that function.
So how do we feel about the Longleaf Pine Alliance?
Longleaf Alliance, I can't badmouth them because they gave me a grant. No, I like them a lot. They're a great nonprofit to work with. I think I can safely say this. I mean, I've said it as much to them as well, so it doesn't matter. I feel like they have recently, and I mean like in the last maybe 3-4 years, kind of they turned a corner in a way on the tree is not the ecosystem, and now they have a lot more focus on actually restoring the ecosystem than let's just get acres of this tree. Mm-hmm. And I love to see that, and they've done a lot of good work on that that front.
I will say that's the same thing I got from the white oak
Initiative, yeah. So very similar thing that they were initially starting out like, no, it's only white oak, and now, however many years on, they said like, no, it's all upland oaks basically, because we recognize that like, hey, there's basically quoting exactly what you said, AJ, was it's not necessarily that important, but we want to focus, but like we're not going to turn away a nice red oak or a nice post oak.
What's good for the red oak is good for the white oak.
And you know what? Like, I wasn't around when Longleaf Alliance started or the Longleaf Pine Initiative started either. Like, maybe there's a very good reason, politically and, policy-wise speaking, that the focus needed to be solely on let's get this tree in the ground and call it a day. I don't know. I wasn't around for that. I can't judge them for shit I didn't see. I walked into this way down the line, and, it's one thing for me to say, like, oh, well, you should have done it this way back then. But, like, shit, I don't know. Also, I feel like we have to shout out the poor Shortleaf Pine Initiative. They never get any love. Oh, poor Shortleaf.
Is it just because it's not as... Sorry, is it just why is the Shortleaf Pine Initiative kind of, or Shortleaf generally, I guess, kind of the bottom of the totem pole?
There's not... Longleaf you can always make an argument for, at least from a commercial standpoint, of it grows good poles and it'll grow pretty good timber in soil that will not grow anything else.
Sorry, by poles he means telephone.
Yeah, telephone poles.
Yep.
Like most high value product you can get out of softwood planting, basically. There's not really anywhere that you can grow shortleaf that you couldn't just grow loblolly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have it doesn't have a great like value proposition in favor of it.
Gotcha.
Even when you grow it in like the mountains in like Tennessee and like we get a little bit in Pennsylvania, which is what I was talking about recently. Like it's just not like a high value commercial species.
Yeah.
Like it's like a pallet wood species, and even then, like modern pallets are mostly made out of like low grade hardwoods. So
I was gonna say it's all hardwoods. I know that.
Yeah, it's a really cool and unique species, and I think it's really interesting, and I like it. And I actually just did a short leaf release as part of an oak project we were doing. But like, you can't really make an argument for like
for a commercial stand. Yeah, not at all.
Yeah. And then like maintaining it is like a similar fire interval. It's like this is a lot of fucking work for nothing. If you're just like trying to make it work from a dollars and cents perspective.
Yeah. And Longleaf too, back to why Longleaf actually works for that too, is it also has the pine straw market to hold it up, in its pre-commercial years, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that requires a desert.
It does.
So the pine straw market is like we mentioned a little bit. So pine straw, you just take like pine needles and you use them as mulch.
Yes.
They make great mulch because they are highly acidic and they take a long time to decompose on their own. Though I would assume though they're a slight fire risk, but
but I mean for landscaping purposes, man.
Yeah,
whatever.
it's fine.
That's fine.
But to collect pine straw, you take a big machine that looks like a vacuum cleaner, basically that's on like a skidder or a tractor, and it just vacuums up the duff layer, so all of your pine needles. But if you have that really cool diverse ecosystem in your story, it doesn't work.
They rake it by hand down here, man.
Oh, really? I've seen
that.
No shit.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, they hire, I'm sure lots of, like, undocumented,
Oh, yeah.
people are that is a whole ass industry down here. They're raking it by hand.
Okay, because the one that I saw, the operation that I saw, they just had looked like a big ass vacuum cleaner on a skidder.
Oh yeah, no, they're raking and baling by hand too. They give
oh my God, Trump was right. We do have to rake the forest.
Yes, yeah.
So, but this collection does not work if you have a really dense herbaceous layer of like 100 different plant species, because you are just trying to collect the pine needles.
You want nothing else. You don't even want twigs. Which that is like these straw crews will actually go through and like collect twigs and limbs and branches and stuff that have felled, and they pile them up and burn them to get them out of the way before they rake everything.
Yeah, and to maintain that, you just herbicide,
and largely just the stand is massively overstocked as well. Like,
I was going to say,
it is kept as we're like 200, 240, 250 basal area.
Oof, that's thick.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Sorry, my brain's misfiring. Excuse me.
That's a lot of volume.
That's so many trees.
Yes.
We're cruising with a 20 factor
Yes.
present there.
Well, you see, though, and this is kind of another cool thing with Longleaf, and it's why we like it for wildlife stuff and trying to work with people that have timber as a priority. Longleaf have a pretty, it's not a real wide canopy, right? It's pretty compact. And so you can carry more basal area per acre for a given amount of shading. So you can pack Longleaf in a lot tighter than you can loblolly and slash, for the same amount of sun on the ground. But yeah,
the sacrifice you make with Longleaf is it grows slower. So you're you're adding 10 years on the return interval if you're going Longleaf over slash or lob.
Yes.
Oh, okay, 10 years.
Honestly, that might even be. That might be it might be even less than that, or sorry, more than that too. With some of the really improved loblolly that grows to merchantable age in 8 years or some shit. It's insane.
Dude, we got some of that for a 2x4 project we were doing, and it's.
Anyway, we are also just getting even more sidetracked.
Yeah, they're on Gen 4. Last I checked, they were on Gen 4, Gen 5 / Gen 3, Gen 4 of lob or
the other way,
long, and the Longleaf if you get genetically modified or engineered, improved, I don't know which one it is. It's all three of them. If you get the improved ones, you can actually get Longleaf that skip the grass.
That's insane.
Well, yeah, you're right.
That feels
guy. If you're looking for timber, you want to skip the grass stage because the grass stage is annoying. You can also do a grass stage release with just herbicides.
Yeah.
Which again, what are we doing? So back to the described fire aspect.
Wasting time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Now that we've talked the Longleaf ecosystem to death.
We are.
Literally with the pine straw, we talked it to death.
Anyway, so yeah, like I said, land managers, a lot of us doing this kind of work, we want to restore these ecosystems, but kind of something, what we alluded to at the beginning of the episode, we have to pick a point that we're trying to restore them to. The picture, the snapshot that we have is just what it looked like pre-European settlement because that's the only data we've got. But we don't really have any idea what longleaf pine and what these forests looked like, over the course of the 30,000 years that, Native Americans were here. And we sure as shit don't know what they looked like prior to human settlement in North America. And so whenever we say we're trying to, restore the longleaf ecosystem, scare quotes, we're really saying we're just trying to get it to that arbitrary snapshot of a pine savanna that was itself the end state of 30,000 years of management by Native Americans. And again, I'm not saying this is a bad thing to do or a good thing to do or this is the best way to go. We just kind of need, I think, as managers, recognize the limitations of what we say we're trying to work towards. Because longleaf, all these fire 30,000 years is a long time for people to be managing, but it's not really that long from an evolutionary standpoint, right? Longleaf didn't develop all these fire adapted traits because Native Americans showed up 30,000 years ago and started lighting shit on fire. It developed those in response to lightning season fires, right?
And they were giant pachyderms that helped maintain those open ecosystems.
Yes.
That being the woolly mammoth and other elephants. I did see a really weird and fun experiment where they they fed a bunch of southeastern plants to elephants, African elephants, and it was really interesting how they improved fertility of those plants. Because again,
because the plants
there was a point where a lot of these
that.
Ecosystems had giant.
We're dipping into the rewilding thing.
This is
another episode.
I know.
Okay. Keep going, AJ. Keep powering through.
We're going. So we've got this species, longleaf pine, right? And we've got an ecosystem or forest structure that we're calling the longleaf pine ecosystem. And we can all agree on that. And we also know that this ecosystem was, if not created, at least kind of, let's say, shaped by this combination of natural, which is your lightning season fire, and anthropogenic fire. And anthropogenic, if you don't know, just means human-caused or human-generated. But that actually brings us, finally, an hour and 20 minutes into the episode, to the second co-topic of the episode, which is prescribed fire. And why we do it, right? Yeah, we're really good at this.
We're so good at this.
We only brought up the pachyderms once. That's pretty good.
So sometimes you'll hear people use the term controlled burn instead of prescribed fire, and that's
Don't say that.
It's fine, but I don't like it because you're not in control, right? There's hardly ever an off switch. There's no fucking steering wheel. You're not in control. At most, you can kind of guide it a little bit with how you do it, but like once it's going, it's mostly going, and you're not really in control.
Look, it's real Jesus take the wheel moments in that Jesus was a carpenter from 0 BC or AD. He didn't know how to drive a fucking car.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm picturing a T-shirt that just says "Jesus take the wheel" with a drip torch, and I kind of like it.
Like 60 miles an hour would have been game changing for him. You can see a 60-mile-an-hour fire coming at you. That's a bad time.
Oh yeah, no thank you, no thank you. But so prescribed fire, and the word prescribed actually works really well for a couple reasons. First, we're doing land management, right? So we are using fire as either a treatment for something we don't like or a form of maintenance for something we do. So like literally, if I'm Dr. Land Manager, I am prescribing the fire as a treatment or maintenance for some part of the unit that I'm managing. The other reason why it works is we're literally talking about a fire prescription, a set of range of mostly weather conditions that we're shooting for that's going to make the fire act the way we want. It's going to affect the stand in the way we want. It's going to kill the shit we want killed. It's going to not kill the shit we don't want killed. So like if I have a plan written for a stand and it calls for a temperature range of 40 to 70 degrees and maybe 40 to 60% RH relative humidity, and it turns out it's actually 80 degrees and 80% RH today, then I'm out of prescription. That's what that means, and it probably means that the fire isn't gonna do what I want it to do. It might get too hot. It might not get hot enough. It might not be severe enough to kill the sweet gums that are taking over. But that's kind of the way that goes. So that's what we talk about when we prescribe fire and out of prescription, and that's why that word works really well for it.
Well, can I do put my social sciences hat on here?
Put it on.
It's really interesting that you talk about it like that, because and this is also my social scientist / forester hat on here, because when I think about prescribed fire, I'm like, can we get a fucking burn in? Because like I want to burn this. Like if I'm like I tried to prescribe a fire on a really interesting Virginia pine stand, and it was like I would like to burn this once in the next 10 years, and that's because in Pennsylvania we don't have the fire culture. Fire is for a lot of like regular people scary, and from like the industry side, insurance-wise impossible. So like I can't prescribe on anywhere near that kind of like tightness on like what temperatures I want to hit. I can say like I would like to do 2 fires over 10 years, and that's about the closest I could get. And even me writing that down is like, this is me wish casting. So that's interesting.
And to an extent, like those were specific examples, and some sometimes they were very specific. Like okay, if I'm trying to get fire back into an embedded wetland, right, that's got a bunch of loblolly that's grown up and it's all sucking the water out, I've probably got a pretty narrow prescription of when I actually can get fire to push into there, but also not have shit blow up all around me. So like something like that, I've got a pretty narrow prescription. For a lot of units, I am writing those windows as wide as I can. I'm saying as long as it's below 85 degrees and more than 20% humidity and less than 10 mile an hour wind, and like I'm setting those guide rails as wide as I can to keep things safe, first of all, to keep the fire in the box, but also to do what I want it to do. And it just depends on the unit and what you're trying to accomplish. If I have a plan and I've got these these parameters, this prescription, but I get a day that feels like it's a pretty good burn day and some of the parameters are out of prescription, for me, that's not an automatic no-go, though. That's just, for us agency folks, we call that getting a variance. And there's a whole procedure of, I got to call this person and say, like, hey, it's going to get up to 90, but also the wind's only going to be, blowing 5, so do we care? And, usually if we're getting a variance, it means we've probably got like other mitigating factors, whether that's weather, the wind is lower, but the RH is also lower. Okay, then it'll still burn good. Or maybe we've got enough extra resources on hand to handle things if they get too spicy. So we can go outside of those bounds if we need to. We just, it's part of kind of the checklist of, covering ourselves and everyone else if we do that.
But I think this is part of having a prescribed fire culture where you guys are like tight enough on this where you're trying to reach a spec where I'm like, man, can we get a fire in there ever? If I can get a fire in 10 years, fantastic.
Yeah.
After
it's the same
I
thing
don't
with
care.
It's the same thing with folks in range burns in like Kansas and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, you get a beer, a pickup truck, and a drip torch, and you just let it rip across the prairie because, 10 miles away, you bulldozed or disked in pretty heavily a burn line that's just all sand, and it'll hit it and just drop, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So, fucking send it. Let's go.
It's just really interesting to me that you have this like when you're thinking about fire prescriptions, like you're thinking about temperatures and like percent humidity, whereas I'm like, dog, I just want a fire in here at some point. I don't care how.
I think a lot of that too is, I don't know. I guess Pennsylvania's pretty built up in a lot of places. We have such we don't have big expanses of nothing really. Like we have enough development and population centers and things like that we have to kind of treat it a little bit more carefully than you would expect, I guess, for the South. And it's, we also have like you said, we have a fire culture that's also like reflected in state laws. A lot of southeastern states have specific law at some level protecting the right to burn, the right to conduct,
which is insane.
Fire. No, it's really cool. It also has a lot to do with indigenous culture as well as good old redneckery.
Oh yeah.
So like it's not insane. It's really cool and it's really cultural. And like the Cherokee have maintained this, but it's and then there's a lot of like Cherokee as well as other indigenous like groups maintaining this fire culture, as well as like we go back and burn the back 40 every 3 years because that's what Daddy did and that's what his daddy did. So we're lighting that shit on fire, Bubba.
So a prescribed burn, right? Then it's a fire set intentionally under a particular set of conditions to accomplish some management objective, and maybe you've really thought about what that is, and maybe you haven't. Maybe it's just we're doing it because we've always done it and it seems like a good thing to do. If you dug down in there, and I do this with landowners all the time that I work with, like there's an actual objective in there somewhere. They've just maybe not thought about it enough to be able to, verbalize it. But like we also make a point of writing out actual ass burn plans. There's a whole template that our forestry agency has that any one member of the public can download and fill in, and I encourage people to because it makes them think about this stuff. What are management objectives? What are management objectives for prescribed fire? There's all kinds of shit, right?
Put the fire on the ground. After that, I don't care.
So for me, at least, we've got a little bit better, I guess, of a fire culture. I think it's mostly just because we can actually have fires start because it's just not as moist, and we have prairies as well that people have been burning forever. But like for us, it's usually woody vegetation control of some sort. So
there you go.
Knock back shrub layer, control, sprouts that came up. It's usually in a prairie. Some people like to do it to control invasives, but it doesn't really work. It's a good. It slows them down.
Yeah. It doesn't control. It might contain.
It gives you access. It gives you access.
So I think this is a really we're hitting all these things, and I think this is really cool, and I think this is a really underappreciated kind of like facet of these objectives for prescribed fire. Is that those fucking objectives haven't changed in hundreds of years. We are still doing prescribed fire for almost the exact same reasons now that the Native Americans were doing, hundreds and thousands of years ago, right? Like the exact same reasons, maybe with little tweaks here and there, but keeping things open, access, land clearing, right? When Europeans rolled off the boats, they found cleared and cultivated fields of like maize and beans. the fields didn't get that way on accident. They cleared it with fire.
Yeah,
and they kept them cleared with fire.
Yeah, if you've ever been to the Southeast and you've seen a place that hasn't been burned compared to one that has been burned, if you are just moving around on foot, it's really easy to see, like, yeah, I want this on fire every couple of years because I can't crawl through these areas that haven't been burned for 7 years.
Yeah, shit grows.
And that's what
like
I tell. That's what I tell kids. Yeah, no, and that's what I tell kids when I teach like high school ecology classes. Like, hey, how do you clear land if you don't have machinery? How do you clear it if you don't have, oxen? How do you do it if you're, in the Bronze Age, essentially? Like, how do you do that? And usually someone ends up saying fire, but it takes a little while.
To get to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Smoke that shit out, baby.
But yeah, I mean, habitat, game management, all of these reasons. I mean, it's if I'm a Native American in 1200 or whatever, it's easier to spot and stalk and kill game in a frequently burned stand. Access, habitat management, forage quality is higher, so the things you're hunting are healthier, and that means they have more meat on them. Also, a lot of our hard and soft mass-producing plant species produce more after a burn. So your nuts and berries, all these. I was going to say,
even white oaks and stuff like that. Like they've shown, like they have a reduced larva thing in them.
The
acorn eating, acorn weevil after you burn them. So there's even a little bit increased viability there.
That's because the weevils hang out in leaf duff. And leaf litter.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
There you go.
So in Pennsylvania, we used to have big bur oak savannas, and those were maintained. Those were fire-maintained ecosystems, and like Pennsylvania doesn't burn that much, like without intentional fire. So the indigenous people were setting fire to maintain upland bur oaks. Because right now we can only find bur oaks in lowland, swampland kind of area. So, and they were maintaining bur oaks because like if you're trying to make flour out of acorns, bur oaks are the biggest acorn you're going to find. If you're trying to eat things that like acorns, again, you're looking to eat
which
blackberry.
Everything does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're looking to eat blackberry. You want the healthiest blackberry possible. You want them feeding on bur oaks in a bur oak savanna because you can see the bears through the open savanna. Whereas if you have a laurel hell, you're not going to be able to see them. You keep the laurel stem by burning it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes a lot of sense just to burn it for all kinds of reasons. From fruit production of the trees to access to security, like again, like
fuel management, structure protection, like that's a thing. Well, if you're living
thinking, you're trying to you got some Europeans trying to get sneaky on you.
Oh yeah.
In 1600, like you can't get sneaky on me if there's no brush to crawl through because I burned it all down.
Also true. But yeah, I mean, the natives were burning for like I said, fuel management as well. Like shit. Think about wildfires now. We can barely put them out with all the vehicles and logistics and shit at our disposal. Can you imagine helicopters, all that? Can you imagine trying to put one out with just hand tools and not even?
And it's a rock hand tool, or a very limited metal hand tool.
They didn't got Rogos.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you look at the Pascagoula River fire, that started that is a fire that burned right around the time of the Chicago fire that killed. Thousands, that killed 1,000 people. That was the deadliest fire in the U.S. history up until very recent.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to think about that. We can look at what happens when you have uncontrolled fire with huge fuel buildups, which is a lot of people die, and they die, by boiling in rivers.
Which is...
and
bad times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I think kind of the last maybe management objective for prescribed fire that I want to touch on as kind of the, we also do it and they also did it. Sort of silviculture, but I think it's not really silviculture in the sense of silviculture in trees because I don't think that they were, there's not a lot of use for poles when you don't have electricity.
That's true.
So I don't know that indigenous people were trying to promote straight growing pines and self pruning of lower limbs. Maybe I don't fucking know, but willow and hazel and all these shrubby species that you're weaving and making baskets and shit out of they grow straighter after being top killed by fire. So they were intentionally doing that to promote those species growing in a form that made them of greater utility. And that is no different from burning for silviculture, which we still do today. So I just kind of want to hammer that because it is really cool. Like, the objectives have not changed in thousands of years. And I think a lot of fire managers don't really appreciate that.
Which is, it's fascinating to me because, like, I've had that hammered. Maybe it's the past couple of years. Like, I've done a lot of personal, like, research and digging around and stuff like that. And it's something that's gotten reinforced by Wisconsin ecology folks. Like, they did a study up by Boundary Waters, and it's not
would be Minnesota.
Boundary. Yeah, that's Minnesota. But the guy doing the research was from Wisconsin. Anyways, and he's like, yeah, before they closed off, we've got red pine fire scars that were every 2 or 3 years, pretty much constantly throughout on all these dendrochronological records. And then all of a sudden, whenever Boundary Waters was, marked off and set aside, all of the fire scars stopped. And his very dry joke was, well, that's obviously because we turned on the weather satellites and prevented lightning strikes from happening. I was like, no, because we kicked all the Native Americans out and they'd been burning nonstop for 24,000 plus years. And so that's his argument for, like, yeah, fire was everywhere, even in areas that climatically people may not think would be even feasible. So
I mean I think that's one thing that we've talked a lot about, directly and indirectly in this episode, is like the fire culture is really important. Like Western and kind of like American approach to fire is very much just starting to catch up to indigenous approaches, because like they shape the ecosystem. Some of it was that is the ecosystem they came into, and they work with that, and some of that is like very intentional, like, hey homie, I gotta walk, so like we're burning this down. And if you talk to indigenous people, like, they will tell you about their fire culture and how, like, yeah, we're gonna, like, in our stories we burn this, for a number of different reasons, but like we burn this. Yeah. So like it's getting burned. Like, if you go to Cherokee land, like burning was banned for quite a long time, legally banned, because again, in the Anglo and Western approach to forestry, fire was bad, but in the indigenous approaches to forestry in the U.S., they were burning, and so Cherokee were burning even when it was illegal to burn, because that's what they did culturally, because it maintained a lot of the plants that they wanted to maintain, their lifestyle, as well as hey, we have burned here for a long time. I'm going to continue to burn whether or not you, the state of South Carolina, tell me I can or not. I am a Cherokee person. I'm going to burn this land.
And that's actually
what my ancestors did.
That also, almost beat for beat, same things happen in Australia, Indonesia, that a lot of those places as well. The indigenous peoples had this culture of burning for a lot of the same reasons. And then, European culture dominated, governments essentially took over and banned that practice. This kind of brings me to the last thing I wanted to talk about, which is, I'm going to maybe go on a little bit of a rant here.
Let's do it.
I just did it.
So are y'all familiar with the term cultural burning?
Yes.
as a term in and of itself, cultural burning.
Remind me what it is, but I've heard it a lot. Yeah,
we just kind of talked about it.
Oh, that's what that is. Okay.
So, and I hate this. I hate this term. I think it's stupid, and I will tell you why. Because you'll see that given as the reason or the objective for burning, and I don't like it because it doesn't actually tell you anything about the actual burn or the thought that went into it. So in a nutshell, a cultural burn is just a prescribed fire, but it's being conducted by indigenous people on land that they have historically occupied for some amount of time, long enough to, basically give them, I don't know, is it still a cultural burn if they're a tribe that got relocated? Yeah.
It's complicated.
But
foresters and
that's
wildlife
not
biologists.
That's not their not their historical homeland. Whatever. But
is Bubba saying
very far.
Yeah. Is Bubba saying like, well, I'm burning this because my daddy burned it and he's burned it for 4 years? Is that a cultural burn?
Cultural burn? I don't fucking know.
Not my job to tell you.
Not my job.
Yeah, I'm getting really far out of my wheelhouse real quick.
Forester card.
But yeah, so yeah, my point with my problem with the term is it just kind of like, and again, this maybe is just me. It's a term that's been around a long time, and as far as I'm aware, I'm maybe the only person who gets irritated by it. It feels like it just throws all of the reasoning and everything on why these people are doing the burns, and just throws it under this hand-wavy, oh, it's just their culture. Why the fuck is it their culture? What are they doing with the burn? They weren't just doing it for the vibes before Europeans showed up. There was a reason. Like, a culture doesn't develop, like, in a vacuum. They were doing land clearing. They were doing access. They were doing fuels management. And that's probably why they're continuing to do it now, at least partly. And I think this is, for me as a white American coming in and looking at it, like, I don't want to see a reason of, oh, it's just their culture. I want to appreciate all the actual thought and land management that went into making that culture what it is and, why it's actually important. Because if you just say it's cultural burning, it's really easy for a white American to look at it and say, okay, fucking whatever. It's the culture. I don't have to care about it. But no, there's shit that we can take away from that. There's lessons to be learned there. And I think just calling something cultural burning makes it really easy to dismiss or ignore that, or just not even think about it.
I mean, I see.
It's kind of drawing a line where there doesn't need to be one, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and the counterfactual, the counter to that is like, well, as long as it gets fire in the ground.
Yeah.
So, and like to that, I'm like, yeah, it gets fire in the ground. I mean, and there are like definitely like cultural reasons to do it. Like,
if you can pull a burn permit because you called it cultural burning instead of fuels management, do it. Pull the permit, man. Get it done. Like, that's fine. It's for me to just see it as like, oh, that's the reason behind it, and just full stop there. I'm like, there's more to it, and I like to appreciate the the nuance and the actual let's call it professionalism behind it. Like, it's a craft that they're doing, and to just call it cultural burning to me kind of diminishes it. And I
was gonna say it diminishes the thought and effort that went in by these people that because they didn't have the University of whatever the fucksville, they didn't have any learning and thinking and intentionality behind it, and we all know that to be false.
Right.
Well, and like one thing that we haven't discussed, because it's tough to discuss, is like a major objective of a lot of indigenous people are like these what we think of today as non-commercial plants, so like medicinal plants and stuff like that. And like that can be a cultural aspect. And like managing for those is difficult to nigh on impossible, because like shit, like blue bead lily, like we are like that has been used as a medicinal plant for 24,000 years, and I can't tell you how to grow it. I can tell you it needs a rich music upland site, and after that I'm out. So like there are definitely cultural reasons there, but like that's almost a a medicinal objective. You could say it's like a cultural objective, like that feels like, again, like you're underselling the management objective here, and like the interestingness of like, okay, I can't tell you why I can get this plant back if I burn it every 2 years, but I know that if I burn it every 2 years and I burn it at this time of year, I'm going to get this interesting medicinal plant back, or this cool structure.
And at the end of the day, that is probably you can call that habitat management, and it's part of the human habitat. It's
there you go.
That's as good a reason as any. And it's certainly cultural as well. But like
it's
I don't know. To me,
take a broader
there's just
approach
like
to it than commercial. Like,
it feels like there's this divide, especially in the fire community, between like the cultural burning and all of the rest of the burning. And when I look at it, I see way, way, way more similarities than differences between the two. And I don't know. I feel like that's a separation that doesn't need to exist. I think we can probably, appreciate each other's sides of it a little bit more.
Yeah, and I hope that we approach this and kind of communicated the nuance that is required. And that there's a lot of respect that we're trying to bring to this conversation, and like not just hand waving it with like, well, this is a culture thing. Like, there's a lot of cool ecology that's happening in these burns.
And it's just one of those things that because there was a genocide over 200 years.
Some more recent than others, depending on where you are in the US.
My high-pitched notion of that was mostly because I
we
don't
just
know
had a
how
thing
to...
about Wounded Knee, so...
Yeah, okay, yeah. So there was a lot of...
Ongoing.
There's a lot of killing stuff happening, and you've removed, however many thousands, millions of people from the equation. A lot of that information just unfortunately disappears, and when your records, written, carved, whatever, are scattered at that point, or on stuff that just does not hold up to the environment all that well, like there's just stuff that's lost. And if all you know is that just by word of mouth, like that's still important. And I don't know. I think our system kind of lacks respect for that if it's not documented by the scientific method sometimes. And I think cultural burning tries to capture that, and maybe needs to do a better job of just like, no, it's a prescribed burning and we know it works, and we're trying to figure out exactly why, and it's a really important, historical as well as scientific reason of why I'm using we in the royal sense. I'm not Native American. Please don't come after me for that. But
yeah, there are. Yeah, I was just gonna say, John, there are also some other folks who I've heard discuss cultural burning, like in Louisiana, oh shit, come on now, I'll get there. Creole.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and like there are some other groups that have like the Gullah Geechee, who have cultural attachments to the plant structures, who make similar claims. So it's not just indigenous people, but like some not just like classic white dude communities. I guess like the Creole community is like is it Creole? Am I doing it wrong?
I'm so far out of the wheelhouse, man.
AJ, you are right down there.
I'm not in Louisiana.
You're right next to it.
How dare you?
There are 2 states.
Come on, the Quebecois, and who's the one?
The Cajuns are the French. The Creoles.
The Cajuns. That's what I'm thinking about.
Creole is
because the Cajuns they like sassafras and some of the other stuff that comes from some of the other more cultural and medicinal stuff. And like especially once you get into like Appalachia, you do also get some more medicinal plant usage because like a lot of Appalachia is still poor and has been poor for a long time, so they rely on like non-traditional Western medicine because like, all right, I can't afford this stuff, so we're just gonna figure this shit out with the plants in the backyard. Non-traditional burning, like non-timber forest products, is important. I guess that's what we're getting to.
Yeah, no,
I was gonna say there's an episode in there too.
There's absolutely an episode in there.
Completely underappreciated.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've covered what a prescribed fire is and some of the whys of why we do it, right? A prescribed fire is a fire set intentionally under a target set of characteristics, weather parameters, circumstances, all of that, to accomplish some specific management objectives. We've got something in mind for the unit. Fire's going to help us get us there, as long as we do it the way that we need to. And a lot of those whys, we touched on those, and like we said, they haven't changed in thousands of years. Land clearing, habitat, game management, fuels mitigation, access, silviculture. Did I miss any? Those were the big ones.
No, I think that covers everything. Yeah.
It's fun as hell.
It's cool, fun. It's a cool, fun, and legal thrill.
It really is. It really, really is. So that's what prescribed fire is and why we do it. And I think next time we're going to talk about more of the nuts and bolts of how we actually plan and conduct prescribed fires. Like, what does that actually look like? Because we're not just like
ring burn or
just
nothing.
No, get out, get out. And I think because this is just my opinion, I don't think you have any business lighting a fire if you don't know how to fight it. We're also going to talk about kind of the other side of that coin. Like, how do you stop a fire? How do we stop fires? Not talking about, we're not really going to go into like, the big picture history of fire suppression in the United States, but just kind of like, okay, what are the factors at play in slowing a fire down, and what does that actually look like on the ground while we're doing it?
Well, so we'll be recording that series soon. And what we are waiting for on the recording of that series is what is going to happen with the proposed National Fire Service. So, listener, if you
that's a
want to
whole
know
different thing. Yeah.
more about the history of fire suppression and stuff like that, it is coming. We are just waiting for a few things to shake out at the federal level. Because
and the federal government being notoriously quick, and especially the Trump administration being very efficient,
Functional.
functional.
And listener, just so you know, at time of recording, the federal government is currently not functioning and that it is shut down. So there's a little timestamp for you. So we're gonna be looking at recording fire suppression stuff probably December,
Eventually.
January, because that's when some financial years end. And I don't want to spoil those episodes, but there's some important financial cliffs we're about to fall off of.
Yay.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
And that's where we will leave you until next time. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks. See you guys later. Oh, also, hang on. We got to do the promotion thing now. So, like things, comment on things, 5 stars. Give us suggestions. If it wasn't 5 stars, me saying or so, it doesn't count as a suggestion. Try to make them constructive. If you got questions or something like that too,
We have an email address. Send us
We
the-
do. We have seedpod.pod@gmail.com.
Send us your questions so we can have
Yes.
a listener mailbag segment.
Yeah.
We will hopefully not extend
eventually
the episodes too much longer with those.
Yeah, and so eventually, we'll just have 5 minutes of episode and like 45 minutes to an hour of segments, which is how all good things work. So,
That's the best podcasts are set up that way, I'm told.
yes.
If you have segment theme songs you want to send us, we will take those.
Because I don't know how to make them.
We are not musicians. We are scientists.
Yep.
Yes. Anyways, yeah. Any other closing remarks, guys?
Don't shut the federal government down if you can. It's really annoying to me personally.
But if you do, if you have to, do it in the funniest way possible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fire is a cool and legal thrill.
Yep.
In some states.
Do it. It's and like most things, it's best done with your friends.
Yes. There you go. That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's all my thoughts on prescribed fire. Cool and legal thrill, best done with your friends. And then ideally, and this is again to spoil our next episode a little bit, also the best fires involve a little bit of beer.
Oh my god. Get out.
Definitely. Gonna keep your insurance certification there, boss.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, I'm not insured.
I wonder why.
I can't afford that.
Okay, anyways, bye everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.